Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to another Quran study. Today we'll be reading from Surah 54, the Moon. We'll be starting at verse 52. God willing, let's all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Verse 52. Everything they did is recorded in the scriptures. Everything, small or large, is written down. Surely the righteous have deserved gardens and rivers, in a position of honor at an omnipotent king. SubhanAllah, so just getting some context here, and so we can see that how in the previous verses that were read last study, how God annihilated these people for their works, and we can see in verse 52 that everything they did is recorded. Everything they did is recorded in the scriptures, small or large, is written down. So these people, I guess I'm looking at this verse in a sense, their history has been recorded, in the previous scriptures, and it's especially with this Quran, the final scripture that's purified, consolidated, elucidated. It's very detailed, and it's the most accurate and only source we should go to. So, and also in the sense, everything that they've done is recorded in a profound record. And so, the same. It doesn't just apply to them. We know this also applies to all people, believers or disbelievers. So, it's in our best interest for our happiness to make sure our record is a good one. Okay, reconnection. That part might have just broke up the stream because laptop had a disconnection. But anyway, being in heaven and being close to God, it's going to be an honorable position. And we can see it on the contrary. The really bad people and wicked people on this earth, they may think they're in an honorable position or in some type of high and mighty place, but we know that that's all temporary. These really bad people, disbelievers, idol worshippers, they're gonna be the lowliest of the lowly. So it's just, it kind of reminds me of the verse where God says, "Don't be impressed by these people." In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, the most gracious teacher of the Quran, creator of the human beings, he taught them how to distinguish the sun and the moon are perfectly calculated. The stars and trees prostrate. He constructed the sky and established the law. So, Surah 55, is all the surahs are very important and special, but, Surah 55 is unique in the sense how we're really, shown through verses in this Quran, and it talks about God's attribute. One of his attributes, the most gracious and the most merciful, and we can see in verse 2, he's the teacher of the Quran. So he's the one who teaches us, and he sends his messengers, for matters and stuff, like we have the messenger of the covenant, and certain things were secrets and stuff were revealed by God through him, secrets that were contained in the Quran. And so, as well as, the Quran is God is the ultimate teacher, right? And just in the same way, the messengers are messengers of what is being taught to us by God. And just like the Quran says, God will send a messenger to clarify the scripture and wisdom, and to help us, right? Especially after such a um, book was the idol worshippers tried to uh, pollute such a book. So and he was the creator of the human beings, and he taught us how to distinguish. So this is very important, and we have a good example um, set by the messenger, and it's in the Quran too. One of the names is called the Statuette Book, or the Criterion, which it teaches us the law and the statutes and how to distinguish from good and evil. So to be able to, make that distinguishment is very important, so that we may protect ourselves and also help ourselves, so we know what is right, what is wrong, and judging in that sense is perfectly good and something that God and gives us an intellect too. We have to use our intellect. To make judgments like, okay, do I want to befriend this person? Is he gonna, lead me down the wrong path, or is this thing good for me, or is it bad? So he teaches us how to distinguish, and mashallah, gives us our brains and our intellect, like the Quran. It's told to us in the Quran. So we can see, the how the stars and the trees prostrate as well. They were among the um, creatures who took advantage of that gracious offer um, to come down and perform some type of subservient rule. And so he constructed the sky and established the law. You shall not transgress the law. You shall establish justice. Do not violate the law. So, God's law is the best law. He's the creator of the heavens and earth. The universe is so. And the law is for our own happiness too. Oftentimes we might have grown up with this. It's obviously like a trick from Satan, but like I was told, like growing up, like oh, if you get close to God, you can't have fun or something. Growing up in a Christian environment, like it's so boring and stuff. But it's just a big trap, because if you see the people who are disobedient. Despite outside of like that idol worshiping religion as it's practiced today, Christianity, you see people miserable, people having all type of problems, spousal problems and stuff that are, breaking laws, like he said, for our own benefit and happiness. About, for example, keeping your chastity, uh, you know, um, not committing adultery, not stealing, etc. The list goes on. So whenever we transgress the law, we can expect consequences, and also we're told to establish justice. So that's something we should promote um, with our communities, with people. And we shouldn't violate the law that God has set up. So it's not talking, it's essentially about, these man-made laws, because man is imperfect. We know that. In fact, there's a lot of laws that could contradict the truth. But, for example, like how insurance is forced upon us. So, but out of necessity, out of being that we're forced, it's something that's forced upon us. But so God's law is the best. He's the most wise. So that's the law that we should follow for our own happiness. And we see the good results and stuff, and the peace and the promises that come with that by being obedient. He created the earth for all creatures. In it there are fruits and date palms with their hanging fruit, also grains and spices. O humans and jinns, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So this one has a footnote, verse 11. Compare the spaceship Earth's renewable systems and reproducing astronauts with the most sophisticated spaceships that we launch into space. God be glorified. So yeah, it's like, I mean, imagine like we can't even create, an atmosphere or something to regenerate our liquids or fluids and stuff. And I mean, the best we could do, uh, is something extremely primitive that would end up breaking, need maintenance and stuff. And I mean, we don't have to do maintenance to the atmosphere. Like, I mean, it's done automatically for us, and it's perfect. There's no pollution or side effects. So I mean, this is stuff we can think about and appreciate. I mean, even just our kidneys. I think the messenger like was a good example that made me think. I mean, like just one of our little kidneys does a way better of a job effortlessly and cleanly. Um, than a huge machine in a room that you're pretty much isolated. You can't really move, and it doesn't do that good of a job compared to your original kidneys, and it takes a long time, and it's very tiresome. And then that machine, you know, uh, may run out of energy. It has to be serviced. I mean, these are things that like we're the astronauts, so we're given these amazing. Um, renewable systems and reproducing astronauts. I mean, so these are really marvels. If you think about it, um, I mean, just the way our we move and we reproduce and stuff. I mean, it's perfect. There's no glitches, and just the muscles and bone structure in our body compared to like even these high tech robots are extremely primitive and still would never be able to reach the complexity of the human being. I mean, cells that regenerate and grow themselves and communicate with each other. I mean, they can't, the best they could do is run electrical circuits and stuff. I mean, very primitive and easily, um, compared to God. And I mean, even that is the knowledge that the human beings get about that is from God. So it's also in a sense, maybe one way to look at it, it's still that's God's creation too, in the sense that He gave the people the materials and the resources to work with in the first place, and the knowledge and the brains to even use and think to create this stuff. So, that's why it's very bad when you see a lot of or some scientists that get real puffed up because they think they're uh, special in the sense, or really smart that they can modify DNA or do this and that, when in reality, all of that's from God. Subhanallah. So, all the hanging fruits too, that, um, I mean, it reminds me like, me and Brother Suleiman were talking about just the pomegranates, and I think the other day, and if you look at it, just like the perfect structure and size, and like he said something like if you had to take the seeds and arrange them perfectly and keep their shape and then keep them together and then for something to grow and like and be consistent, and like every pomegranate is like that. I mean, that would be like just to do one pomegranate would be a monumental task for like the human race to, the engineering. I mean, that's just one. I mean, we have millions that God gives us, it grows effortlessly on trees. We don't need to do anything. We can just enjoy them. So, yeah, these are all blessings. Moving on, verse 14, he created the human being from aged clay like the potter's clay, and created the jinns from blazing fire. O humans and jinns, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? And also, I'm not sure, I'd have to look over it again, but Surah 55 is also mathematically, it has a mathematical structure to it, in the sense, if I remember correctly, the verses that talk about which of your Lord's marvels you can deny. Every of those verses is mathematically composed in its own unique way. I do remember, so that's something also uh, uh, appreciate. Lord of the two east and the two west, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? He separates the two seas where they meet. A barrier is placed between them to prevent them from transgressing. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So yeah, I remember. I think for the first time I'd seen pictures, maybe like a year or two, or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and of where I think the salt water and the fresh water meet somewhere out in the Mediterranean or somewhere in that area, and it didn't even look. It looked like it was something that was photoshopped, and that's. That's giving it a compliment because it looks so miraculous in that sense. Like the colors and the distinctions and stuff. So, if you just think about that, that's amazing, and that's. He's exactly telling us here. God is telling us a barrier is placed between them. So these are blessings because if they mixed, certain ecosystems, I believe, like certain fish wouldn't be able to survive because there is. I do know saltwater fish and freshwater fish. You can't. Like if you put certain freshwater fish in saltwater and vice versa, they wouldn't be able to, do good or survive for that too long. Out of both of them, you get pearls and coral. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? He gave you ships that roam the sea like flags. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Everyone on earth perishes. Only the presence of your Lord lasts, possessor of majesty and honor. So yeah, this is very true, and it's good to think about in the sense like remembering that our bodies we have perishes. Everything we see around us, all these material things, so it helps us, have a good perspective, which is different to most non people or non submitters in the sense, we can see the attachment and our attachment pain that can come because they, like the Quran says, they act on earth or they do as on earth as if they're going to last forever. And so you can see, even if somebody says, oh, they know things are temporary, believe in hereafter. You can see by the way they act and stuff and like how they prioritize, how most people, prioritize their time and stuff, or if they get the message or they are some, disbelieve or fall into some type of idol worship. Um, so that's really, it ties into like, how the distinguishment of people who believe in hereafter, people who don't, that someone who believes in hereafter is not going to find anything objectionable in the Quran, is going to be happy with it, is going to be satisfied when God alone is mentioned. And thus, and what God tells us, Quran alone, you don't need any other source. It's complete, fully detailed. And versus the other people who don't believe, they're unhappy with it. They have to have other sources, and they also have to have other gods, with a little g, or idols. Be they, they're religious teachers, imams, scholars, or etc. Or not. Or pastors. Not just to single out Islam. It's just as prevalent in Christianity and other religions, Buddhism, etc., or just Gnosticism too. Moving on. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Imploring him is everyone in the heavens and the earth. Every day he's in full control. SubhanAllah. So this is another verse that God is running everything. So he's in control of everything right now. I'm just looking at like these people walking, even me, and telling ourselves that, and to like every cell in our body, and keep reminding ourselves that this is super important. Because then, we find that like when something happens, immediately we might want to object, but then we remember God is doing it, God is running everything. Things, won't really annoy us, or if they do, they'll eventually stop. We can ask for help with that, or things that used to bug us won't anymore. And it's something, that's why it's so important to work on and reminding ourselves, reminding each other, and being reminded is crucial because we know that about this, about believing in God and yes, know God as He truly is, to really appreciate Him and know all His attributes, right? Like the messenger had talked about. And he said, of course, it takes time and work, and but mashallah, it makes sense. Like when he says it sheds a whole new light on submission, because submitting essentially becomes like part of you, because when you see everything is just not just happening, or people aren't doing this, or an inanimate object may an inanimate object can't do something, but you're going to look at it and it's not going to disturb you, because you know that God is controlling everything. Like the verse says, every day He's in full control. He created our creation, He created us, so naturally, this is the truth, and we can appreciate God much more and more, um, you know. And then I also like this part, imploring Him as everyone in the heavens and the earth. I guess, we as submitters, we implore Him, and I'm sure like the trees and the animals and those good creatures too, that are going to be automatically redeemed, implore. But maybe we can, I guess the disbeliever, in the sense, maybe they're imploring Him in the sense, as, I don't know why it got kind of dark, the camera. Camera got kind of dark, but I guess that's okay. I think the sunlight changed, but in the sense, like their bodies and everything submitting, even the disbeliever's heart and their body is submitting in the sense. So perhaps that's how everyone is imploring Him, even maybe those people. But even we're told, in the Quran, when adversity, or when they're out at sea and stuff, we're given the examples. They also implore, for help. But the difference is, a submitter is going to implore and then either repent, or is going to be, uh, you know, um, worship God under all circumstances and really try and do their best. Where the disbeliever, idol worshiper, is just going to completely revert. They're not going to care after the previous imploring. And, and if they are, if they do that, or do that too many times, or stay like that, not that there's a time limit, but if they don't somehow snap out of that, because, you know, um, then God will help them in that decision, which can be a scary thing, for these people. And so that's where these people become blocked out, or a barrier is placed. But verse 31, we will call you to account, O humans and jinns. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Yeah, so we're all being called to account, even the jinns. O you jinns and humans, if you can penetrate the outer limits of the heavens and the earth, go ahead and penetrate. You cannot penetrate without authorization. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? You get bombarded with projectiles of fire and metal, you cannot win. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? SubhanAllah, so God and the angels are, it's very reassuring, comforting, despite what you may see, or, how the transgressors and leaders of the, every community transgress on the people and plot and scheme. God is in full control, and God's angels are much more numerous. And one angel's, can hold the earth in its hand, much more powerful. So despite these people's schemes and whatever technology they think they have, or what they try to do, and the same goes for the wicked jinns that may try to penetrate the outer limits. And not to say maybe all of them were bad who did this, but in the sense of how the verse is being taught, maybe we can assume there was a lot, transgressing ones that tried to do this, and they couldn't. They didn't have authorization. As powerful as these creatures are, like we're also told further, I think maybe in Surah 72 or one of the other surahs, that they found formidable guards on the out, on the outer, around our universe. Our universe, like God tells us in the Quran, is well guarded. So, you know, um, and they can never win. So the same goes. I mean, for the jinns, the same goes for the transgressing, humans. So really, there's nothing to worry about, like in the sense of what what the transgressors and rulers and tyrants and stuff do, because all that's just to increase the retribution. God is recording it, and they're really scheming against themselves. So it's like I think of it like this: like they're making a bomb to blow up or destroy a bunch of good people. Um, but what ends up happening, you might look at it and you see them, they look like they're going to be successful with it, but in fact, God turns it around on them and causes their scheme to backfire and they end up blowing up themselves. And so that's just a figure, an analogy. But moving on to the next verse. When the sky disintegrates and turns rose-colored like paint, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? On that day, no human or a jinn will be asked about his sins. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? This is because the guilty will be recognized by their looks. They will be taken by the forelocks and the feet. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So yeah, this is verse 37. In respect to verse 39, like appears to be the day of judgment. So in the same way, like how the seas will be set aflame, as I think we were told in the last verse. Make sure I'm okay. Yeah, I'm still good. In the last verse, just to checking to see if I was still streaming. In the last verse, the last Mount Sinai, so we're told about these events and what it's going to look like, and we can only imagine. Imagine waking up one day and seeing this red sky. It's going to look, very scary just visualizing that. And we're told no one's going to be asked about their sins because everybody's going to be stratified according to what they did. And so if someone looks like a cat or something, like their soul is the size of a cat versus someone else who's going to have a soul that could be the size of a state or something like that. You're not going to need to ask like what did this person do. It's just obvious. It's going to be obvious to everyone. This is because, as we're saying, the guilty will be recognized by their looks. They will be taken by the forelocks and the feet. And so I think the forelocks, this is referring to, I think a part, I don't know why the light keeps doing that, but the forelocks is a part, I think, of the head. So, that's, that could be allegory. It could be really happening, in the sense like where they're grabbed or their soul. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? This is Gehenna that the guilty used to deny. They will circulate between it and intolerable inferno. So that one has a footnote. Full details. So for verse 44, full details about the high heaven, low heaven, the purgatory, hell, and the intolerable inferno given in appendices 5 and 11. So, for those who reverence the majesty of their Lord, 2 gardens, one for the jinns and one for the humans. So we know the jinns are also going to get their, going to have a separate heaven, and they're also going to have their own paradise. Um, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Full of provisions. Provisions too unending. So just like even the good provisions in this world, they end, but in heaven there's going to be it's not going to end. God is one of his names is Qayyum, he's the eternal king. So I mean, imagine it's hard to wrap our head around, in the sense like how we're confined to this dimension, or like spectrum of living, to think about this stuff. But it can also be a way like where we can appreciate what we're reading more, in the sense like of how great it's gonna be. Heaven's gonna be, God willing. That's what we're striving for. God willing, will be. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Of every fruit in them two kinds. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? While relaxing on furnishes lined with satin, the fruits are within reach. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Subhanallah. So these are I mean, these are allegory, but they can also be you know I mean, we can use their way of describing stuff that's much better, or similar, or even better to what we have here, in the sense like, so the nice things we can enjoy here, we understand it in that respect, and it's going to be even better. Like God tells us, He says, you have no idea how much happiness and joy is waiting for you. And even if even if we try to have an idea, the verse says you have no idea. So these are things to be hopeful about and to strive for, like the hereafter, and being as close to God as possible, because we know, in a sense, like how the more miserable we are, and we can see the misery here on this earth, is because of our distance from God. So in the same way, like if we want to be the most happy as possible forever, and even more happy, the closer we are to God, so we can strive for that, and have, with our soul growth, so we can be as close as possible to God, and be happy, because naturally, it would, I think it would be that way too. That the closer you are, the more happy you would be. So, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Their beautiful mates were never touched by human chin. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? They look like gems and corals. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? SubhanAllah, so these are like the spouses that I believe what it's mentioning. So everybody is gonna be perfectly matched with their spouse. SubhanAllah, and just like innocent, just like in the way they would in this world, you know, their the souls are perfectly matched. So I mean, it carries on like that to heaven. And I mean, even I thought about this, like for people, maybe children who died and went to heaven. I mean, God knows, like He matched them with their perfectly matched spouse, in the hereafter and stuff. Wherever, if they went to the lower heaven or something, um, or died like before the age of 40, and wasn't like a submitter in the sense of developing their souls. But um, I mean, who knows better than God? These are all marvels, things we can think about and appreciate. And in verse 60, I'll read, is the reward of goodness anything but goodness? So, that's a good question, because, like, if you do good, naturally it's going to make you happy, even in this world. So, if you continue to do good, and work really hard and advancing your soul, um, and doing not doing anything to regress it, or even if you do or have done, that's where we can repent and make up for that, because we're told by God, we get credits, the 10 to 1. He's the most gracious, most merciful, so nobody, has any reason or excuse to try to say that, um, God is not merciful. Below them are two gardens, one for the jinns and one for the humans. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny side by side? SubhanAllah, yeah, so we kind of talked about that. Um, so yeah, with Alhamdulillah, these I don't know if somebody knows about the mathematical part of but the marvels part. I think I remember seeing something about that if somebody knows. But with that said, if there's any comments or questions, please feel free. Thank you.
Subhanallah, thank you, brother.
MashaAllah, thanks.
MashaAllah.
Yes, I think you mentioned something about a mathematical pattern behind which of your Lord's marvels can you deny, right? So I think that is definitely something interesting that we can probably share here. Um, let's see.
Yeah, SubhanAllah. I remember watching, I think, a sermon, and the messenger was writing it out
Mm-hmm.
on the board, and I was like, oh man, it's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think I have that somewhere, and then there's also some in one of my sermons. I had some additional ones. So there's, let me see. I know in one of my sermons I'm sure I can't find the other stuff, but yeah, I might be able to find that part. So yeah, let me look. I think I found some of it. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, so it's mentioned in Surah 55 in these verses, and there is a certain number of verses after which, it repeats itself, So this is in addition to, I believe, what the Messenger of the Covenant had presented, um, which I didn't know about at the time that I found this out, but maybe I'm trying to see how I can share it, maybe as images on a WhatsApp group or something. And maybe you can share it if you want. Mm, okay. Let's see. Export to images. Okay. 556 from 21 to 26. So I shared in our WhatsApp. Uh, John, you don't have access to WhatsApp, right? On your computer.
Yeah, I don't, unfortunately.
Okay.
Maybe I could
Maybe,
share it
maybe,
on the phone.
yeah, or maybe I could email it to you. But you don't have email set up on your computer, right?
Uh, maybe I could do this. Is it showing up on the?
Uh, yeah, yeah, it's showing your screen. Yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, that's perfect. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Sarah, yeah, 55 mathematically. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny?
Yeah, so it's mentioned in these verses, right? So, like for example, it's mentioned for the first time in 55:13, and before 55:13. John, maybe you can mute yourself because there's a lot of
Oh,
background
yeah,
noise. Yeah,
yeah. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
So yeah, so before like 55. Okay, so before thanks, mashallah. So before 55:13, there's actually 12 verses, and then it's mentioned in verse 16. So between 13 and 16, there's two verses, and so forth. So if we add the digits of these numbers, we get 38 or 19 times 2. And then um, also, if we write these numbers from right to left and add the surah number to it, um, we get another multiple of 19. So, like I always thought, like it's not like in my head, like it's not like a following a certain like a poetic sort of a rhythm. It's like kind of haphazard. Like there's 12 verses, and then there's one, and then there's two, and then there's one. I'm like, there has to be some kind of a mathematical significance to how these are arranged. And so this is what I saw with those repetitions in the spaces in between them. Mashallah. John, you can unmute now, Carly, if you want.
Okay, mashallah.
You see.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
such a long number. Subhanallah, I'm glad you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Also.
yeah, because I always wondered the same thing. Because you would hear, "Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny?" And then even and this is like the very verse in of itself is like what we're reading about the marvel is a marvel.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Subhanallah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just this alone, no human could have made like a thought of a number, like done this, and then have to keep track of it, and then know the spacing and remember it, and then it's going to be this big. I mean, no human could even multiply that many, or think of something like that, and then and that's just
Mm-hmm.
one facet of like hundreds or thousands of like parts of this miracle. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, so we read from for those who just joined, we read from Surah 54, verse 52 onwards.
Yeah, I also wanted to say, like verse 2 of Surah 55, how God's teacher of the Quran, and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, I mean, he's the ultimate teacher. So when a messenger comes to us, it's God teaching. He's teaching us. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so for someone to say or try to apply the verse that was specifically for Muhammad about moving, you should not move the tongue with the Quran. That was that was in reference of like creating like the Hadith and Sunnah, right? Or it would be us who explains it, like how the verse says, and not you, Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
So, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so like, yeah, the hadith and sunnahs, like that, I mean, God is the one who explains it. And, so what I think, um, for those who would try to apply this, to God's message of the covenant, because I've heard it before. I mean, right
Mm.
here, it's God. God is teaching us through His messenger, because it's not like God is going to come, or speak to someone directly. I think in Surah 34, He tells us that He communicates with us through a messenger, sending inspiration, and so God is the
Mm-hmm.
teacher of the Quran, and we have messengers, as He told us in the Quran, that will clarify, clarifying
Mm-hmm.
messengers.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to put that
No,
out there.
sure. Yeah, that's a very good point. Definitely. I mean, God is the teacher of the Quran, and if you notice, like in our Quran studies, we have teachers, right? That doesn't mean that we are teachers. I mean, yeah, we are appointed teachers in our studies, like we teach. Like some people get scared from this title, like, oh, I'm not a teacher, like I'm just a student of Quran, which is true. We're all students in the sense we're all here and to learn, and we're students of Quran. Every single one of us, even people who are teaching, that we're all students. But God is the one who teaches, right? And He has a system, and and
Yes,
and
subhanAllah, here's the
yeah.
system, exactly. Because for example, I didn't understand. Remember the verse that, like,
Mm-hmm.
I heard it for so long about the how the idols, how they uh, scare frighten you with
Mm-hmm.
the idols. I didn't know like
Mm-hmm.
what that, and when it
Mm-hmm.
was mentioned by you, I think like last month, and it was talked about. I'm like, oh my, that's exactly it. That's
Sorry,
like
which one?
how they frighten you with the idols they set up
Oh
beside
yeah.
God. And I was thinking like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, maybe like it's some big scary looking statues or something. Like,
Uh-huh.
like, oh, like it's kind of intimidating, but it that really didn't like, but like in a sense, like they frighten you, and because it's happened to me like in the past growing up too. Like this is like when it was said and explained this way, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like God teaching me, because it was like, when people, scare you and like, oh, if you don't believe
Mm-hmm.
in Jesus, you're going to go to hell. And they'll even quote like parts of the Bible and, add some ooh, behind it. And it does make you kind of like nervous. And
Mm-hmm.
it really does scare you. It scared me growing up. And I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, that's exactly. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
in that sense, like, subhanAllah is like God's teaching, you know, uh, was teaching me. So, like, just to,
Mm-hmm.
further your point that you were just making.
Yeah, mashallah. Also, if you search for the word like guiding teacher in the Quran, like there's a couple of verses that pop up, that are referring to the messenger that God sends as guiding teachers too, because God teaches us the Quran, but God also has a system. He sends messengers, and messengers, like you said, they are clarifying warners, and they teach us based on that. And it says, those who disbelieved, it's Surah 13, verse 7. It says, those who disbelieve say, if only a miracle could come down to him from his Lord, we will then believe. Say, you are simply a warner. Every community receives a guiding teacher, right? So the messenger is our teacher, and like for example, there's other verses that says, God says, He is reciting sacred instructions. In it there are valuable teachings. So these are the teachings from God that the messengers are teaching us. And the messenger of the covenant has also published an article in one of the older submerged perspectives, where it says, the Quran without the messenger misleads the wicked, and it's always the hypocrites, that will say, yeah, we accept Rashad, but we don't follow his teachings. As in, like everything is his opinion, everything he says, yeah, he found the miracle and all that, and the messenger of the covenant has published this article that says, Quran without the messenger misleads the wicked, and the messenger explains how this is his system, that he sends these teachers, and he mentions references these verses, like I believe 733 and others. And so he says this is God's system, and so these people, since they decide to go against God's system, God blocks them as a result. So there's all these Quran aloners, out there that want to interpret the Quran, like people like Adib and all these other likes,
Yeah, they
and
want
they're
to be their own
completely
messenger.
astray. Yeah, and they're completely astray because any sort of guidance is blocked for them, right? So this shows how important it is to understand this. Many people simply decide to reject this or overlook it because of their egos, right? It's really their egos that makes them averse to a messenger. They say, why should we follow a human being like us, right? He's just a man like us. So he that everything he's saying is his own opinion, even though he says he's a messenger. They don't care, and people have really, I think, in the past, with the messenger of the covenant, like I'm talking about people who fall say they're submitters, have really set the worst examples based on that. And as we can see, some of them is documented, some of them is not documented. um, and it's but it's obviously to their loss. As you can see, all those people are now astray. People, for example, many people who decide not to follow the messenger of the covenant's teachings have decided to throw away like the additional information that we have been given as a blessing from God, like the audios and the videos, and they decide not to ever watch them or listen to them. And as a result, they're completely blocked. They don't believe that insurance is prohibited. For example, there's many that will have insurance, and then, like, for example, they don't believe in perfect happiness and admissions tests and everything, because they do not want to listen to the messenger of the covenant unless they find information verbatim in the Quran to confirm it, what they want. So they become their own messengers, like you
Right.
said. Yeah.
Yeah, subhanallah, it's a good, really good point and
Hmm.
explanation. It's
Hmm.
yeah, it's like like you said, it's the pride and ego, and
Hmm.
really, when you put it that way, it's like because it's coming from a human being, it's kind of, I mean, that's essentially what Satan was like too, but he was obviously like worse in the sense, it's like the most arrogant or ego creature. But yeah, I mean, we can see like it makes so much sense. Why it's the first commandment and why we have to kill our egos because when it's like God, it's a huge blessing too. Because I mean, imagine like these people like Edip and these other people have gone astray. Like they're all coming up with their own ideas and stuff, and like have
Hmm.
deviated. Like oh, we don't know. I mean, which like if someone really wanted to like follow like the accurate and correct and right way, it's like it would be so stressful and I mean miserable trying to
Hmm.
figure out who But then God sends us like a clarifying uh, messenger.
Hmm.
And then another thing too, the people that like you said, these Quranists that claim to, oh no, let's just worship God and follow the Quran, and but the thing is, you can't. Worshiping God and following the Quran is believing in His messenger and obeying and
Hmm.
supporting Him. Not backbiting the messenger. Like
Hmm.
I mean, like or undermining him, or I mean, even like I mean, we've seen that. I think you know which mosque I'm talking about. I mean, you've probably seen more, but just like the little bit that I've heard from the one in Los Angeles, it's really bad. And I mean, these people, like you
Hmm.
said, they set the worst examples because people come into submission, and then, I mean, imagine someone's really trying, and then you hear this person talking bad. I
Hmm.
mean, it's, it's
Yeah.
it's it's really bad what they do.
Trying to put
But
doubt in people.
yeah, exactly. And that's we're not supposed to subpoena. Thank God, we're not. Um, to go to such places.
Hmm. Did this stream end?
No, it shouldn't have.
It looks like it ended.
Man, it still says
The one on Facebook, I think, ended.
I'm hooked to hotspot. It still
Hotspot?
says yeah, like I'm still hooked to my laptop. My laptop is still hooked to the internet, and OBS is streaming.
Streaming? Maybe it created another stream
I think okay, yeah.
when you
So
got
it
disconnected.
yeah. Okay, Joffer said YouTube. Yeah. So I think like 5 to 10 minutes into it, it got disconnected one time, and then it reconnected. And I did that before, and then it creates a new stream. But yeah,
Hmm.
Joffer said YouTube's on.
Hmm.
So yeah, maybe if YouTube will keep streaming, but like Facebook got stopped,
Hmm. Yeah, let me
perhaps.
check YouTube. Yeah,
Assalamualaikum.
looks like YouTube is still streaming, but yeah, the Facebook one ended probably. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, but I want to ask about 55:17, uh, about the two easts and the two wests, right? Can you
Hmm.
misschien tell more about that? How should we understand that? Maybe I missed that part.
Yeah, so I think the Messenger of the Covenant talks about it. There's a footnote also, right? That says uh, like every place where the heavenly bodies rise and set is in east, right? This is I'm trying to find that one. Hold on.
Yeah, Abdullah sent it here. The east implied the locations of sunrise, moonrise, and
Hmm.
the rising of heavenly
Yeah,
bodies.
yeah. Footnote for 4338.
Yeah, heavenly bodies, like for example Saturn, Uranus, like that kind of
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sunrise, moonrise, and
locations of
rising of
sunrise,
heavenly bodies.
moonrise,
Yes.
and the rising.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And then it also talks about the seas where they meet each other at 19.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's
The
referring to
salt water.
evaporation. No, it's referring to evaporation.
Oh, evaporation, not the salt water and the other
Yeah.
waters. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah, that's Harun Yahya's interpretation.
Oh yeah, not only his, there are also a lot others,
Others,
and they
right?
have these
Uh-huh.
videos, and where you have these
Mm-hmm.
two, uh, the seas where where you can see clearly
Mm-hmm.
there's difference in
Mm-hmm.
between them.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, fresh water and salt water.
But it also says at 20 that there is a barrier between them.
Yeah, I think that's referring to evaporation, right?
Okay, 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 yeah. In this 55, it most of the times it talks about which of marbles of God you can deny, right? Which of these marbles?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we spoke
Marvels?
about. Uh, doesn't it say marbles?
No,
Marvels?
not marvels, not marbles.
Nee, I said marvel.
It sounded like you said marble.
And
No,
then
he
I said
said marble.
no, no. I said marvel, brother. But it doesn't matter.
Sounds like you're saying marbles.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny?
Yes.
Only the presence of your Lord lasts, possessor of majesty. And okay, mashallah. Imploring him is everyone in there, and yeah, like that's the most important thing, right? Imploring him, but then on the right way. What Brother John, also mentions, repeating, of course, that he's doing everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mashallah.
Right. So I think the one that there's another one. It says he separates the two seas where they meet, right? So those are talking about the salt water and the fresh water. So he's the one who
Okay.
merges the two seas. One is fresh and palatable, while the other is salty and undrinkable. And then the one that talks about the barrier, that's referring to evaporation.
Okay.
Oh, mashallah. Yeah, I didn't yeah, yeah.
Yeah, brother. And here in this, I found, I wanted to ask actually about also that God made like the heavens for the separate one for the humans and the separate one for the jinns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do I understand clearly that jinns, angels, or humans, we all have souls, but do we have different kind of souls, or do we have like the same? Is it like exactly the same way, or with different bodies, or how should we understand that? And why? And do we know what the reason is why there is a separate uh, heaven for humans and a separate one for jinns?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we don't really know to a short answer to your question. We don't really know why, like how, like physically speaking, like how they're separate, but we understand that since they are categorized as different creatures and they have different heavens, that maybe they're made differently from us, and that's why, everything is different for them.
Yeah, God says that he blew from his own spirit into Adam, right? Um,
Hmm.
yeah. It like does this mean that the jinns are different in that way, or
I mean, the thing is that all
maybe it doesn't
souls,
matter, I don't
yeah,
know, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, all souls are a part of God, right? So, like, same all creatures that because they all worship God, and for jinns also, like that is the source of their nourishment, right? Because of that.
yes.
So, in that sense, like humans are not special, in distinct in that sense. Like they all the life that God has created, all these living creatures, they all have souls. They all come from God, the same way. Like,
Yeah, so if they like if when you die, a jinn or a human, and
hmm
in the other world, if we have all the same bodies, like or the same souls, same materials, then why is there a different heaven for the jinns?
I mean, I'm
Uh,
not saying that we have the same. I'm just saying they're all breathed in by God. They're all part of God in that sense. But now, of
mhm.
course, since we were categorized differently, like Satan became a jinn, and we were categorized differently. Maybe they are different. Um, maybe like permanently, right? I mean, they were
Yeah, in
all
that sense,
in
and maybe
yeah.
maybe like
Hmm.
maybe the initial decision that we all made could have reflected some type of. I mean, I know like it was really bad and showed the, I guess our the ego and stuff, but like whether we got categorized as a jinn and human. I mean, I guess you can say like because we were creatures before, like creatures in the sense I guess like Suleiman was saying about we were part of God. We all have souls, and that decision that we made affected us, like our categorization. So therefore, like it's permanent in that sense. I mean, everything
Hmm.
God knows best. God.
And he
God.
didn't give us this information, right? So
No,
if he
I don't think.
didn't, then this means okay. Yeah, no, I thought maybe he gave somewhere or the messenger talked about it, but if he didn't, then actually, like, we don't even have to know, maybe, right?
I
Hmm.
mean, I know we know, like, so if a Jin probably wouldn't like to eat a steak or something, like he doesn't care for that. Like just making a joke, but like I think I heard like an audio or something, example. I think given about or like if you offer a steak or something to a tree,
Mhm.
like it's not gonna care for it. A tree would probably like
Yeah.
sunlight and chlorophyll way better, but we're not gonna like okay, sunlight's cool, but like chlorophyll or in a sense, like I guess that's making sense.
Okay. And can we say that, um, is it more difficult for a jinn to become a submitter compared to a human being? Since, if I'm not mistaken, the jinns were closer to the idea that the devil could be a god next to God than the humans. Do I say it right? I don't know. And does this mean it's going to be, is it like it's more difficult for them to accept it, and they became jinns, so God gave them, like, they can travel very fast, right? They can go to the outer edge of the space, they can see more, and uh, um, so um, uh, they have stronger evidence of the things that God has created. Is that the reason why? And they live longer, right? Can we then say that it's for them it's like more difficult to become submitters and to accept it? and because of God's grace and mercy, he gave them more time and he gave them more. I don't know if the question is clear, but
Yeah, yeah. I think we can stick to the facts that we know for a fact, for sure, right? Like, so we know that the reason why they live longer is because they don't have the natural instinct that we have, and they're closer to Satan because they are constantly pushing his point of view, and they're his descendants. So in that sense, you know, it's difficult, but it's also difficult for the humans who are their counterparts, right? So, but I don't know if I would say that, like, I wouldn't feel comfortable having enough knowledge to say that it's more difficult for them or less difficult for us.
yeah, the messenger
But
speaks
I
about
just,
this, right?
huh?
Yeah, the messenger speaks about this. He says that God gave because God gave them more time, so they have more time to see the universe and to see like
Yeah, but
all the
does
other
he
things
say
that
that
we're
it's
not.
more difficult for them or more less difficult for us or
No, no,
something?
that I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right? So he
Hmm.
doesn't say that, but he says because the reason why they're living longer is because they don't have the natural instinct that was given to us. That's all we know. But I'm saying we don't. I don't feel comfortable saying that there it's easier for them or more difficult for them. I mean, it's easier for us or more difficult for them and stuff. Just feel safer to just stick to the things that we actually know for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, mashallah.
because the thing is, what I feel a little bit scared about is that God says that Satan wants you to say things about God that we don't know. So sometimes we want to know things and we want to get to the a lot of details, but some of those things we actually don't even know, and we could speculate, but we run into the risk of saying something that we're not actually sure about, and we see that there's people out there that are doing that, and that is something that Satan uses against them to lead them astray, you know. So we just gotta stick to the facts that we understand, and things that we don't know. I mean, we just don't know. We that's it. But obviously, nothing's wrong with asking if maybe some information might be there. Let's say that I don't know or you don't know, and we may have missed. So we can ask these things, and
Yeah,
definitely
so
that's fine.
I think, brother, the thing is that like if we can ask until we know that there is something, like if you don't know if there is information or not, we can ask, but if we already know, like there is
Mm-hmm,
no information is given about that subject, right? Then I remember the message of the covenant, he also speaks
mm-hmm,
about this, like we shouldn't go after information that is not really relevant for us. So
mm-hmm,
the thing is, if we ask questions, it should be based on if there is information. If there's no information and we don't need to know yet,
mm-hmm,
then it's done. No, right? Because if
mm-hmm,
we would have, if it was important and relevant for us, then God definitely would have
mm-hmm,
given this information to us, right? So
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me like of the verse. I don't know if this ties into that, but it says if you asked about certain matters and it was revealed to you, it would end up hurting you or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
like
mean,
in
sometimes people want to ask things that they're not ready to accept, and then when those things are made clear to them, then they disbelieve. So the verse that one is referring to those types of scenarios,
Yeah,
let's say, like,
that
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, because I've seen it happen.
mm-hmm,
Alhamdulillah. Like even like looking back on like getting a message and stuff, and I think like understanding like what messengership meant, and then like the age of 40, alhamdulillah, and then finally looking at the mirror, Rashad Khalifa in the Quran and how he was mathematically, and that was like the convincing. But like, yeah, if yeah, I mean, if some
mm-hmm,
things are like too early or something, or
mm-hmm.
alhamdulillah, God knows best.
Brother Jaffer, you're feeling better now? You sound like
Yeah, brother, like I have this cough. I'm coughing and
uh-huh.
I'm eating a lot of honey. Inshallah, that
Uh-huh.
will help. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
In the
Okay.
evenings it becomes a little bit worse. In the mornings I feel a little bit better.
Uh-huh.
Maybe because of the sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, the kids are here going to school and every time when they come back they bring these things.
Stuff, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So it's like but I must say it takes longer than usual, Normally, if you get ill, like within 1 week, you're much better, but now it takes longer. I don't know if it has to do with what we had in Corona time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure, but
Right.
You can
maybe
get
I'm
rid of that
also.
with electricity, brother.
Oh, really? What do I need to do? Tell me.
It sounds so far fetched, but alhamdulillah, I'm being
Yeah, just stick
completely
your fingers
serious
in the
though.
socket, you know.
Did you did you try that before, Suleiman? Maybe it worked with John. My voice would change definitely. Uh,
You'll become a whole new person.
yeah, yeah,
He'll become electrified,
yeah.
electrified inside.
Yeah. But you tried, so you know that it works, right?
No, I mean, alhamdulillah, I bought me one of the
Oh, the
devices, but
zapper.
yeah, I read
Uh,
up enough on it. There was a book written on it, but the FDA's tried to ban this, and they have like they've gone after sellers and stuff with imprisonment. It would so electricity. I mean, not to get off topic, but I'll send it, God willing, the information. But it was used up
Mm-hmm.
until the 1930s to treat illnesses, bacteria and stuff. You can attack their pulse
the one you sent in the group.
without harming the human, because the human. I mean, in the same way, I mean, you're essentially electrocuting their cell membranes and stuff, viruses, bacteria. And it's not so much the frequency that it changes, but it's the positive. Subhanallah. I mean, it's like makes so much sense, but it's literally the positive, because God, like everything good, it's positive. It's the positive charge that affects like the bacteria and all these other things. I learned they're all negatively charged. So when the positive charge hits them, it disrupts. It's not there. She's not sure how it happens, but it's either it disrupts the ATP chain or it does something. But yeah, I mean, you can look at it under a microscope and see these protozoa explode. But I mean, sorry, not to get off topic, but God
Mm-hmm.
willing, I'll send it. But but yeah, there's every use case. What I'm saying is like everybody has
Mm-hmm.
done that, but it's not really to
Mm-hmm.
promote
So
it or anything.
I have a comment on verse that talks verse 55:8 and 55:9. So it says, "You shall not transgress the law; you shall establish justice. Do not violate the law." Right, and he says, "He constructed the sky and established the law. You shall not transgress the law; you shall establish justice and do not violate the law." Right. So um, this verse has been misused and abused by a lot of people to try to make people do things against the Quran based on the laws of the land. To say that it says in the Quran that you shall not transgress the laws. For example, they say there is a copyright law, and and if you print the Quran, like for example, against the permission of Masjid Tucson or something like that, for example, which obviously they don't want anybody to publish them because they want to be the only ones, even
Yeah, I
for
mean,
whatever
imagine
reason.
that, like concealing
Yeah.
God's message, and
Hmm.
taking an active
Right.
stance against someone
Hmm.
using their own money to print it.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have the false messenger, the messenger of Satan, saying that if you want to, strive in the cause of God, you should give him money. So, like God says, they ask for money. So, but But I mean, to my point here is that this is not referring to the law of the land, you know. So people who think that you have to, because you know because the thing is, God made the Quran easy for us to learn. So while, you know, the law of the land, if the law of the land is in accordance with God's laws, for example, you know, respecting other people's lives or things like that, you know, their belongings and all that. I mean, you're already abiding by it by following the Quran, right? But for example, you know, you have laws in countries. For example, you cannot say, like, if you want to follow every law in every country you are, you cannot be a submitter in certain countries because it's against the law.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you cannot preach submission because it's against the law and stuff like that. So a lot of times you'll come across laws created by man which go against laws that are created by God, you know, so people cannot use these verses to come to you know, a conclusion that you have to obey the law of land, you know, like you must for as a religious duty, for example, right? Of course, I mean, as a good citizen, you may try to obey certain laws, you know, as the best you can, you know. But for example, you cannot say, like, you know, for example, you have traffic laws and there's a speed limit for 65 miles an hour. If you say go 67 now, you're actually sinning, you know. So but they, believe me, like there are people who actually thought that that was the case. You know?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, we can't override,
Mm,
like overriding God's law with,
yeah.
like, feeble
Mm-hmm.
man's law, who's, far from
Mm-hmm.
perfect. It's like, yeah, definitely
Yeah.
not gonna be good.
Exactly. And that would make the religion so much more difficult, right? Because now you have to follow not just God's law, but you have to follow so many other laws. Like, you know, every country keeps adding new laws. The laws keep increasing every single day when it, especially like if you want to do business and stuff like that, the laws, for example, keep adding more and more and more and more laws, you know, to the books.
Yeah, I
And
mean, imagine if, yeah, if you followed their law. I mean, you would, like, right, you would be, you, like, if it was banned to print a submission Quran, or the true
hmm
Quran in the country, like, oh no, I'm
hmm
going to follow the law. I'm not going to spread God's message.
yeah,
You
hmm
know, like, no, like,
yeah,
like, you can give it to people. And
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's where, like, thank God, like, God gives us an intellect, and, like, people, like
hmm
you had mentioned, should look at these verses and remember that their only source is the Quran. And um, I mean, God isn't. I mean, plus, traffic laws weren't even in existence at the time of the
yeah,
Quran. So, it's like
right,
you should not transgress the law. Like, like he's referring, like, his law. He's not
hmm
elevating man's law or saying, "Oh, don't
or copyright
transgress
laws for
man's
that
law."
matter. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, copyright laws. You know, I mean, like, yeah, it's completely, you know,
hmm
you're not doing anything wrong. I mean, striving in the cause of God, and
hmm
if something, because it's either you're gonna follow man's law
hmm
and then disobey what God says, or vice versa.
right.
I mean, he's saying and establish the law, God's law, the statute of
hmm
book, what was given to Moses,
hmm
Jesus, the Jews, he's talking about his law, he's not,
hmm
uh, elevating or talking about, oh, man's law, that's so special.
hmm
I mean,
Yes, subhanAllah. And then, you know, God says that He created the earth for all creatures, you know. So not just for human beings, you know, there are all these other creatures that live, you know, they have the right, you know, to exist and live, peacefully among us. For example, in many countries, they will, for example, exterminate a lot of animals because they don't want them around. Um, and I mean, it's understandable, like for safety reasons. For example, if you have like animals that will hunt humans and stuff, but like creatures that our God has provided in our ecosystem, for a very balanced food chain that He has created for mankind. I mean, all these creatures are important, and I mean, these verses are for this chapter are talking about all of that in addition, like how God has created these renewable systems, as the footnote is talking about, so all of these God has created in a perfect balance. So He has created the earth for these creatures as well as for us, and we should learn to, live in harmony with these creatures for our own benefit, right? I mean, like if we see that if we exterminate like certain species, like you will see imbalance in the ecosystem, and you'll see like bunch of parasites that will come and overpopulate the earth and eat for example the food supply that we rely on as a result, because those creatures might be responsible for controlling the population of the overpopulation of those other creatures that can affect our food chain quite significantly. And subhanallah, I mean, this whole chapter is talking about all of God's creations that He has created for us to reflect on, to help us grow our souls. Like for example, you mentioned the pomegranate and all these other fruits and things, the jewelry and all the stuff that God is talking about here, all for us, uh, and also for us so we can understand and appreciate God's omnipotence. Like every day we see new species of different animals, different colors, and different systems. Like today, I was watching this video of this one centipede, right? It's a creature like poisonous, very poisonous. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with them, but like for example, they exist in South Asia. They have like 100 legs, each. Like we have 2 legs and we can control them, but imagine like this creature has 100 legs and it controls them flawlessly. Like God has created these systems, so amazing for us to reflect on that. God is truly omnipotent and He can create anything He wills, and given all these creatures different types of bodies. Like you look at these creatures and they look alien. When people are looking for life on other planets, but if you look at the creatures on Earth, like these are amazing creatures. Like you wouldn't think that these types of creatures would exist, but every day we see more and more diversity of animals and plants and flowers, and all these things are signs from God to help us appreciate His greatness. Help us, like it says, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So all of His it just I mean, you can just appreciate the design and the beauty and everything that God has created in nature, and His how omnipotent He is, that you wouldn't think that these creatures would exist, or you wouldn't think that some of these creatures would even survive in a certain habitat, but God allows them to live there, and God gives them specific specialized ways in which they can hunt and survive uh, in those environments. I mean, these are all so amazing. And I mean, God even talks about the jinns here, uh, uh, and He has created. I mean, if you just think about that, like these are giant invisible creatures that travel so fast that we cannot even imagine. Like we see in the Quran, the jinns of Solomon, like they said, they could transport an entire palace in the blink of an eye. So I mean, how amazing is that? God creates all these creatures that we can't even see. And they're so huge and they're so powerful. Inshallah. Do we lose everyone? Did I lose everyone?
Yeah, subhanAllah. Wait, what?
So,
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool too. Like how we're told how they, like these creatures, very powerful jinns and stuff, try to penetrate the outer limits, and but yet they get bombarded with projectiles, and they can never win. Okay.
Brother Samak, I need to pray too, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
God willing.
Okay, so.
okay, I guess if we're all going, maybe nobody has any questions. Maybe God willing, we can conclude the study, I guess.
Yeah, but I will
Yeah,
send
God,
you a message, Suleiman, inshallah. Please look at that.
Okay. Okay, sure. Yeah, God willing.
Okay,
yeah,
Samak.
God willing.
All right. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Brother John, for leading the study. And thank you, everyone, again for joining early. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Samak. Thank you, brother, for the study.
God bless you
Samak.
all. Assalamu alaikum.